The day everyone in the village decided that little Amina was nothing but a burden was the same day her father quietly made a promise to the sky. He stood outside their broken house, holding the tiny hand of his 5-year-old daughter while people whispered behind his back. Some said a man without a wife could never raise a child properly. Others said a daughter would only grow up to bring more problems. But the little girl who stood beside him with dusty feet and tearful eyes had no idea that the world had already decided she didn't matter. She only knew one thing: her father was the only person who had never let go of her hand. Before we continue this emotional journey, take a moment to support the channel, Lonely Dad Strong Heart. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love between a parent and a child, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Amina's life began with loss. Her mother died just hours after bringing her into the world, leaving her father Kareem alone in a small village where life was already difficult even for complete families. Kareem was not a rich man. He was a laborer who carried sacks of wheat at the local grain market from sunrise to sunset. His back was always sore, his hands were rough, and his clothes were always dusty with flour. Yet every evening, when he returned home, his tired face would soften the moment he saw his little daughter waiting at the door. The village people never truly accepted their unusual family. In their eyes, a widowed man raising a daughter alone was something strange. Many relatives slowly stopped visiting. Some even told Kareem that the best solution was to send Amina to a distant relative so he could focus on work. They said a daughter needed a woman's care, not a tired father who barely had time to eat. But Kareem refused every suggestion. Deep inside, he carried a quiet pain from the day he lost his wife, and Amina was the only piece of her that remained. Letting his daughter go felt like losing his family all over again. Life was never easy for them. Their house was small and old, its roof leaking whenever it rained. Kareem would wake up before sunrise to cook a simple meal, braid Amina's hair the best he could with clumsy hands, and walk her to school before heading to work. People often laughed at the sight of a grown man struggling to tie his daughter's hair ribbons, but Kareem never cared. For him, every small act was proof that he was trying his best. Amina grew up watching her father fight life every single day. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes when he returned home at night, yet he always forced a smile and asked about her school. Sometimes he would skip dinner just so she could eat a little more. She noticed everything, even when he tried to hide it. At school, things were not much better. Many children came from bigger families with better clothes and lunch boxes filled with food. Amina often carried only dry bread wrapped in paper. Some classmates ignored her, while others whispered that she was the girl with no mother. The loneliness sometimes felt heavy for a child her age, but whenever she thought about giving up, she remembered her father's tired smile. Years passed slowly, like a long road filled with dust and struggle. Kareem's body grew weaker as he continued working in the grain market. Carrying heavy sacks every day began to damage his back and lungs. Some days he could barely stand straight, but he never stopped working because he knew Amina's future depended on it. One winter evening, when Amina was 14, she returned from school earlier than usual. As she opened the door, she found her father sitting on the floor, holding his chest and breathing heavily. His face looked pale, and sweat covered his forehead even though the air was cold. That moment changed everything. For the first time in her life, Amina realized that the man who had always protected her was not invincible. He was just a tired father who had been carrying the weight of the world alone. Kareem was taken to a small clinic where the doctor explained that years of physical labor had severely damaged his health. He needed rest, medicine, and a lighter life. But rest was a luxury Kareem could never afford. Without work, there would be no food. When they returned home that night, the silence between them felt heavier than words. Kareem tried to reassure his daughter that everything would be fine, but Amina could see the fear he was trying to hide. That night she made a decision that would slowly change both of their lives. The next morning, before sunrise, Amina woke up quietly and began helping her father prepare for the day. But instead of going straight to school, she walked to the grain market with him. Kareem immediately protested, telling her she needed to focus on her studies. He didn't want her to carry the same burden he had carried all his life. But Amina had already seen the truth. She knew her father's strength was fading. So she started helping in small ways. After school, she would come to the market and help organize sacks, sweep the floors, or bring water to workers. At first people laughed at the sight of a teenage girl working among grown men. Some said it was shameful. Others said it was pointless because girls eventually leave their fathers' homes anyway. But Amina ignored every comment. She had learned something important from her father: love was stronger than people's opinions. Slowly, the workers at the market began to respect her determination. They saw how carefully she watched over her father, always making sure he didn't carry the heaviest loads. Some even started giving her small tasks that paid a few coins. Those coins became the beginning of something bigger. Amina started saving every rupee she earned. Instead of buying clothes or snacks like other teenagers, she spent evenings studying business ideas she found in old books from the school library. She dreamed of finding a way to help her father without forcing him to destroy his health. One day, while watching customers at the market, she noticed something simple yet powerful. Many people who came to buy grain didn't have time to clean or grind it themselves. They often searched for shops that could prepare the grain quickly. That observation sparked an idea in her mind. Using the small savings she had collected over 2 years, Amina bought a second-hand grain grinder from a nearby town. It was old and rusty, but it worked. With the help of a few kind workers, she set it up near the market under a small wooden shelter. At first, customers were curious. Some doubted that a young girl could run a grinding service. But Amina worked with patience and honesty, charging fair prices and treating every customer with respect. Word slowly began to spread. Within months, the small grinding corner became popular among market visitors. Farmers appreciated the quick service, and shopkeepers trusted her reliability. For the first time in years, Karim didn't have to carry heavy sacks all day. Instead, he sat beside his daughter, helping manage orders while she handled the machine. For the villagers who once called her a burden, this transformation was difficult to ignore. The girl they had pitied had quietly built something meaningful. The daughter many believed would only create problems had become the reason her father could finally breathe without pain. Years later, the small grinding corner grew into a proper shop. Then another. And another. Amina expanded the business, creating a small grain processing center that provided jobs to several families from the village. But no matter how successful she became, one thing never changed. Every morning, before opening the shop, Amina would sit beside her father outside their home and share tea with him under the same sky where he had once made a silent promise. Karim often watched his daughter with quiet pride in his eyes. The world had once said she was a burden, but life had proven something different. She had become the strength he never expected, the hope he never asked for, and the greatest blessing he had ever received. Before we reach the ending, here's a special request for you watching this story. Please comment the words, "Kindness still exists," if you believe that love between a parent and child can overcome any hardship. Now, as this story comes to its final moments, take a second to reflect on the quiet heroes around us, the single parents who fight every day without applause, and the children who grow stronger because of love. If this story touched your heart even a little, please support the video by liking it, sharing it with someone who needs inspiration, commenting your thoughts, and subscribing to Lonely Dad's Strong Heart. Your support helps bring more powerful stories like this to life. Because sometimes, the people the world ignores, become the very ones who save it.